everyone. Good morning, and welcome to Spiritual Coffee. It's Julie Coraccio and...
Angela Coulter. Glad to see everybody this morning.
All right, everyone. I'm a little bleary-eyed, but as you can see, Angela's enthusiastic, so we're going to have some good stuff for you this morning. So today's topic is going to be about allowing, and I think, we're just going to start the conversation and see where it goes. I think it can obviously go in a couple directions, but I felt really moved over the past couple days to talk about this, and it's something I've always struggled with. I'm a recovering type A personality, and so I am always used to doing, because you can only achieve without doing. And a spiritual lesson I continue to work on is allowing. And I look at doing, which, is kind of what I would call male energy, like pulling towards, and allowing to be more feminine and relaxed energy. And we need both. I'm not here to say one is bad or the other, but it's a lot about balance. So I wanted to think of a couple examples in my life. I have been told, for the next couple months, my guidance has been you need to go within, need to clear more of your junk out, and if you don't have a client, oh well, get over it. And it's also said you need to do some things and pay people who are experts to do it. So I was like, all right, I will listen to it. I'm kind of annoyed, but you know what? I get in trouble when I don't listen. So I said, it'd be kind of nice if I at least had a client, to pay for everything that I'm having to pay for. And so a client came to me from not my website, a random thing. But to me, it's because I stepped back and allowed it. I didn't try to fight it and say, well, ha-ha, universe, I'm going to get one over on you, and I'm going to network and fight it. And I just allowed it to happen. Now, one thing I want to talk about is, you still have to take action. So this person contacted me from a random website and said, hey, here's my personal website. If it seems like a good fit, then contact me. So I took action, but I didn't get in the mode, which I would have in the past, like chasing, oh my gosh, I'm the best person you need to hire, blah, 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 blah. So again, kind of, navigating that allow and an action. And when I came up with Reawaken Your Brilliance, I've been trying and come to me name and Googling and trying to find something. And then I sat back and meditated and boom, it came right in. And then I was like, okay, stop meditation. I got it. Let me go out and see if there's anything on Google. Nothing on Google. It's mine. Good. Next thing. So again, everything's a balance, and I know for some people like me who are just really like charge, it's hard, but it's, allowing and being in that flow. I look at it, I think we've talked about this before, is kind of, I'm on this nice raft, drifting down the stream, going in the flow. You've known those times in your life when you're just like, wow, I am in the flow. Everything is going my way. And kind of when we're trying to reach for the branch from the side or, avoid the rock, then it kind of switches the energy. So that's how I wanted to start out. What do you have to say this morning about that, Angela?
Oh God, there's just like I said right before we got on, there's so many places we can go with that, but it is really crucial. Allowing it sounds so simple, and yet it's such a challenge for so many of us, right? So there are many situations that I work with people because here's the thing, you're right, when we try to control something too much, and actually when I use the word control, I'm talking about like the ego. It's usually the ego that says this has to be this way. The ego decides this has to be, this is the ultimate thing for us, and that's the mind, where we don't realize that many times there's something far better in a far better way, and we don't allow it to happen because we try to control it and put these, these parameters around it and boxes around it and say, okay, this is the only way this can happen. And a key area for this, it has to do with finances, with money and abundance. And like you were talking about with your client and stuff, the best thing is how when I work with people about that, it's like, you know what, somebody will say, well, I would love to do this, but I need to make this much money, or this has to, I have to have this much money, or I have to do this, or this has to happen. I'm like, okay, how's this? What if you just totally let go and said, this is where my heart finds its bliss. This is where this is where I am in my highest vibration, which is, of course, where the universe supports you totally. And I trust that I'm supported, and I allow it to come to me. I allow the abundance to come to me in any way, shape, or form that will serve me in the highest and best way. And when we take the reins out from around that, instead of saying, I have to make, $500,000 a year, and say, I trust that the universe will, bring me the abundance I need in the way that I need it, at the time that I need it, so that my bills are paid, so I have food on the table, so I have, you know, clothes on my back, and then gas in the car, and also money to do other things. We can set those parameters. Like, my only parameter in my intention in life is to allow me to reach my ultimate goals, purpose, in bliss and grace and ease and fun and excitement, adventure, and everything else I just let up to my higher self, to the universe, and everything else. When we allow that, we create these magical realities and magical like situations that we could never have created before because we tried to put too much of a box around it. So we don't realize that when we say I have to do this way, I have to do this, I have to do this, you say, you know, even like you're saying, well, I have to find this kind of client in this kind of way, and then just instead of saying, well, you know, it'd be nice to pay the bills.
Right. See, I was nice. I just kept it down to one thing, and I asked, and then I stepped back, and I didn't get in my own way, which I've been known to do.
Yeah, yeah. And many times that's the biggest problem, is that we get in our own way. It's like when I was guided to start, like over a year ago now. It was about a year and a half ago. I started being guided to have an office space outside of my home because I was seeing clients in my home and all that kind of stuff. But for some reason, it was important for me to start doing that, and I basically had a situation fall into my lap, and I was like, oh no, because you know, then I have to pay rent, you know, like the mind's because of going all this stuff, and then blah blah blah, and then I kept on getting it pushed at me and pushed at me and pushed at me until, I mean, that space didn't go anywhere, and it's like, was the perfect space. I'm like, why isn't anybody taking it, and all this kind of stuff. Well, guess what? I mean, it's like 5 minutes from my house. It's great rent. It's a great location. It's a great space. And finally, I said, okay, fine. Here's the thing. And I kept on getting, take this space, take this space, take this space. It's really important. Okay. So I said, fine. If I'm supposed to take this space, then I trust, there's a big word right there, and I trust that the rent is going to be there when it's due on time every month. Period. So it was a little bit of it was interesting because it was in the first couple of months, like, yeah, I had a whole bunch of things, but, you know, I also have business expenses and everything else. And so it's like the first couple of months I can't tell you, there were probably 3 or 4 months where I got in, probably the first out of the 6 months, there were 3 or 4 months where I came to, say, the last day of the month or 2 days from the end of the month, and I'm like, oh God, I got to pay the rent, and I'm going to have to take that out of my other funds. And then I just said, no, you know what? If I'm supposed to pay the rent, let the rent be there. And it would be like new clients would come up, other clients who hadn't called for a while would come up, new students would come up, somebody would buy something, like buy like one of my pyramids, like where money would just come from some place that I had. But I didn't say I need to have this many clients to have this kind of rent. I just say, you know what? The money's going to be there. And every time I've done that, I have just totally, now I just totally let go of it because now things roll really well. And so I just know it's going to be there at the beginning of the month. When we allow that to happen, we actually open the channels to how many ways it can actually happen, which makes it far more creative and far more of a situation where we allow that grace and ease to come in.
Yeah, and I want to say good morning to everyone that's watching. We see Lance and Sarah on, and if anyone else is, shout out so I can say hey to you all. I want to talk about a second I mentioned earlier about energy and allowing. You know, I see it. I've been in this really weird thing where I haven't been able to form words, and but to me it's like allowing is again like this, whereas grasping is like holding on tight, and the ego and control, and I'm going to control it. And I think you just made a great point that when you allow, you know, so many possibilities. Like this client I just got, random, shouldn't never happen. Do you know what I mean? Shouldn't have never happened, yet it did because I was open to it, and I didn't cut it off.
Right, and that's, see, the last statement is so key, the not cutting it off, because, excuse me, because that's typically where we sell ourselves short, because the ego or the mind says, like you said, the grasping, I have to have, or you put a box around it that's too like defined, and you say I have to have this way. I have seen so many people that I've worked with who say I have to have this way, I have to get this way, I have to get here this way, and I keep on telling them, and then guess what, 5 other ways they could have achieved that same purpose come to them, and they blow it off because their mind says, no, 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 I have to come across it this way. Like I can't accept it or allow it in another way. And I'm going, well, do you realize that you are cutting yourself off by disallowing it to come in other ways? And that's really one of our biggest our biggest challenge is because the ego tries to control and do black and white. Even as basic as getting messages from our higher self in terms of spirituality and opening up to the wider universe, the basic thing people say to me is, I want to understand how to get messages. I want to know how to get messages from my higher self. And then they'll go into meditation. This is like I teach them how to do basic meditation or some basic tapping in. And then I see them at the next session and they say, well, yeah, I did that. And yeah, it feels really good when I'm there, but you know, I'm not getting anything while I'm in meditation. But you know what's funny is like 3 or 4 hours later, I could be sitting in the car and all of a sudden I'll have like this big epiphany and I'm like, because it's not just when you're in meditation that we are spiritual beings. It's part of taking down all the boxes that say, I have to, you know, it's like people saying, oh, I go to church on Sunday and therefore I'm religious or spiritual. It's like, no. It's like saying, oh, okay, when I'm in meditation, that's the only time I'm allowed to get messages, and every other time is like the rest of life. And they're like, no, actually, our entire lives are messages. And when we allow the messages to come through, not only just in one certain way, but in fun and humor, and you find things come to you in a song or on a billboard or on a license plate or bumper sticker or discussions with people. It's like that's another really simple example of allowing in a different way. When people realize, oh, I can do that. Like many times we have such a hang-up that we close ourselves off so much, and we have these expectations. Expectations is another big ego word, right? Because that's like how we box something. And as soon as we release that, then we can start to allow things to come in ways we could never imagine. And so we can just trust that part of the learning process is to trust the higher self has our backs, has the whole picture, knows how to get us there with grace and ease. And the more we trust and allow that to just like sort of say, you know what, you take the wheel, this is it, this is only from here what it seems like this is my goal, and however I need to get there in the highest and best way for me, with grace and ease and joy and fun, excitement, adventure, and bliss and all that kind of stuff. That's it. That's all. That's my requirement. Beyond that, go at it. And then sit back and watch how it happens, because it's really fun and really more exciting and varietal and colorful. And then you actually live in abundance and expansion a whole lot more easily.
Yeah, and what I think definitely creative ways, and I've also noticed, and you probably too, when I allow, I tend to get exactly what I'm wanting or needing. Well, I always get what I want or need, especially if I'm messing around, the universe needs to kick my butt. But when I try to go after stuff, like this woman I started working with, I'm like, ideal. As I move into the next phase of life and what I want to do, I'm like, oh my gosh, right what I want, exactly what I want. And sometimes when I'm kind of grasping and trying, it's not quite what I want.
Right, because it's what you think you want, and then you don't realize all the parameters around that. You know, there's a woman who I knew who is really heavy in the spiritual work and has done all kinds of practices and learned all kinds of practices. And I had been talking to her once, and she'd made one of those vision boards, right? You know what a vision board is, right? So she'd made a vision board. And now this is a single mom who's in her late 20s, and so she'd been married to a doctor who mistreated her, and he was very sexist and very derogatory, apparently, and all that kind of stuff. So she had written this vision board, and in the vision board she'd put what she wanted from, like what she was looking for in her next, partner, right? Her next mate or whatever. And the funny thing is, you look at the list on the vision board, and it described her ex-husband perfectly. It was like, he needs to be a doctor, he needs to make this kind of money, he needs to do this, he needs to do that. And I'm like, you realize you're just going to attract the same person all over again. And she's like, well, she's like, yeah, no, it'll be different this time. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that whole Einstein definition of insanity, right, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. But that was the whole thing. And she's putting these boxes around. I'm like, why does he have to be a doctor? Why does he have to make that kind of money? All you can, all you need to do is find somebody who can truly make you happy on the same kind of path that you are on, in the same expansion, in the highest vibration. Then what do you need to put parameters around it? But many times we do that too. Oh, this person, that my person that I'm looking for has to look like this. They have to do this for a living. They have to make this kind of money. They have to live in this kind of house. They have to want to go here. And I'm like going, Well, do you realize how much we limit ourselves by putting those parameters around there? Because you could find that exact person, and then you could have no connection with them whatsoever, because personality-wise, there's just nothing that clicks.
Yes, and I have to always share. We have a great question from Lance I want to get to, but as I've shared before, 2 weeks before I met my husband, I took off my height requirement, and that was my only kind of stinky thing. Everything else is like, I want a guy who's honest and has integrity and 6'3", and you know, my husband's shorter than me, but I wouldn't trade him for the world. Here, Angela, we've got a great question. That's from Lance. He says, what do you tell your clients and yourselves about the difference between thinking things into existence and believing that they will be presented? Great question.
No, that is an interesting question. Thinking things. So read that again. Thinking.
Sure. It is, what do you tell your clients and yourselves about the difference between thinking things into existence and believing that they will be presented?
Okay, well, one is the creation, the other is the letting it go to let it happen. And the trust. That's believing really goes back to trust.
Yeah.
Right, and trusting that it will happen. Right. So, thinking things into existence, which goes along with the energy we give something. Right, the kind of energy we give it. And many times, what do we think into? Many times we think our biggest fears into existence because we give it so much energy. Right.
Right.
But the key that I work with people on is letting it go. Once we think it into existence, letting it go and allow. Here we go back to allowing it to happen with that trust that my higher self will take care of me. Right. Now the other thing is to also let go of the reins or the expectations around what that's going to turn into or what that's going to look like, and that if it doesn't happen, part of the understanding is to trust that it wasn't for your highest and best good to have it. Right? So because the people say, well, what about a Lamborghini? And I'm like, okay, well, you could put it out there. Like if it serves you in the highest and best way to have it, that's great. Same thing, same thing with like winning the lottery. Well, to me, once you get to a point of trusting the universe takes care of you, you have won the lottery. In my opinion, you have won the lottery, because you know what? It always happens the way it's going to happen in the highest and best way. So that is a really challenging thing for us also from the mind, is once we think things into existence, like once we think or state or create something intentionally, the biggest step from like that point to actually materializing is letting go and trusting. And allowing, like going back to the allowing word, and allowing that we're going to be able, that it will happen if it's for your highest and best good, that it will happen in the best way with most grace and ease and whatever and joy and stuff, and then not having to put the parameters around what that looks like, and just trusting that it could be better than you can even imagine.
I also think,
go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But allowing, to me, not allowing leads back to ego, control, and fear. Well, I can't allow it to happen because I'm afraid that it won't.
And that's a big thing too, because that's a belief that many hold, is I don't deserve this.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't. Right. When you don't deserve, when you deep down believe that you don't deserve to be happy or you don't deserve to be abundant, then you will prevent yourself energetically from reaching that state until you release that belief. And that's the spiritual work to do, is releasing the beliefs that hold you back. Because many times we have, that quote that we're just as afraid of our power, of how powerful we're more afraid of how powerful we are than, that we're powerless. It's many times we're afraid of being successful, right? Or we're so afraid of failure that we never step forward and do anything, right? These are standard beliefs and energies that hold people back in creating and making that transition from just thinking to creating, right? From putting the intention in there to creating, is when we hold those beliefs, we've put a block or a wall up that prevents the energy from flowing, right? Like you were saying, the allowing is more like a flowing river kind of thing versus grasping at that branch or trying to reach something that's out of your reach. And it's like, well, now if I just allow it to flow, it will simply happen. Right, it sort of goes back to what we talked about last week about like staying above all the craziness and just trusting and saying it's just going to happen, right?
Yeah, I'm going to step out on a limb and get a little woo-woo, which usually that's Angela's job, but we like to mix it up here on Spiritual Coffee. So I was doing some energy work on myself, and I was, stuck, and I felt like I had an energetic block. And what I found out was, and I saw it, and it was awesome. It looked like a brown octopus right on my heart chakra, and it was literally a wall, an octopus, if you will, that I put up. But this is where I'm going to step out on a limb, from a past life where I wasn't so nice and I wasn't doing such a good job, that I had put this, well, you know what, you kind of weren't good in your past life, so in this life we're going to make you struggle a little bit. And I have to tell you, so I removed it and I started cracking up. Like I could feel, literally I could feel the lightness of after removing that, but that's digging deeper and, okay, what's going on with me, and taking that step further. Okay, it's an energy block of what and why I couldn't allow. I'm like, okay, so now I know.
Right. Right, and that's actually a lot of times, like, other lifetimes hold us back too. That's big.
Yeah.
In terms of holding the energy of, and that's like exactly, it was somebody I was talking to about this recently, who actually is very wealthy and felt very guilty about being wealthy because of what we've been taught about, like others are starving and this and that, whatever. I'm like, no, you know what? You are a perfect epitome of abundance. You should teach classes on living in abundance because that is awesome. And so we got into this whole discussion. I said, well, I was shown a whole bunch of things a long time ago. First of all, we judge people all the time based on what they have and what they don't have, right?
Mm-hmm.
This goes back to your point in a minute. I'll get around to it. But the thing is, like, we look at somebody who doesn't have any money, or they're destitute and they're like on the street or something, as like we pity them, and as if they have something that we need to help them. And I'm like, you know what I told her was, here's the thing I was shown a long time ago, because this is like a downfall of many people who do spiritual work, is we feel like we have to help because it's our duty to help everybody and and save the world and everything else, when it really isn't. Our only job is to save ourselves, to actually work on ourselves. And I was shown a long time ago, if you get guidance to help that if I get guidance to help somebody, then that will be in the highest and best interest, because I trust that what's going to come through is for the highest and best. And I always ask, is it the highest and best for me and for this person to help them, right? Well, so this goes back to talking about, I said, so like some people who are destitute or on the street, who can't seem to hold on to money or any kind of like abundance because it just flows through their lives, you cannot, like, if they decide, if they have that wall up, that they do not allow themselves abundance, no matter what you do, it will not help them. So there's nothing, so it's sort of a waste of your time and theirs, because many times in other lifetimes, so this goes back to your other lifetime thing, many times in other lifetimes they abused power through having a lot of wealth or abundance, and they abused others through that, and so they believe that they deserve to be destitute, that they deserve to be in lack because they would abuse it otherwise. So that's healing that they need to do within themselves. And until they look at that in the mirror, nothing's going to change, no matter how much, no matter whether you give them like $5 or $5 million, it's not going to make a difference, because it's going to somehow find its way to lead them until they're ready to accept it within themselves.
Right, and there's no judgment in that, because
No.
we've all done things that aren't great. Because I burst into tears when I was like, oh, I'm a bad person. I'm like, come on now. We all do things, and it's about, for me at least, spiraling up higher and higher each time.
Exactly. And that's the other thing too, is I'm like, yeah, we've all done it. We've all abused power. We've all abused others. We've been the, perpetrator as well as the perpetrated, because that's all part of that existence of duality that we chose to explore, and there's no judgment about it. It's just a matter of, it goes back to recognizing what's in the mirror, right? Recognizing what it is that's allowing or not allowing, because if we're not allowing something, most of the time it's because we don't believe we deserve it. If we don't, like, for example, like allowing, say, so going to abundance is a huge topic, right? Abundance or financial abundance. Allowing yourself to receive abundance in a lot of abundance of coming in and constant flow, and that you can do it with grace and ease without it having to be hard work, because a lot of people believe, oh, I have to work, here's another standard belief, I have to work twice as hard to get half as much, right? That's what a lot of people believe.
Mm-hmm.
And when we hold those beliefs and we say them, like, have you heard? I've heard plenty of people say things like that. When we hold those beliefs and we say them, we further create those realities, and then we then feel like we're stuck because we're not allowing it to flow and not recognizing that I am divine, you're divine, we deserve everything because we're all friggin' awesome. So once we get past the judgment and we can see that we are deserving and worthy and unconditionally loved and are unconditional love, and that abundance, by the way, of any kind is infinite. That there is no finite definition of what abundance is, and that there's like no finite, because we create it, so we can create as much as we want. It's infinite. When we recognize that and accept that, those are other beliefs that we hold, then we can allow anything to come to us in every which way and form, that we can do it in an easy way, graceful and easy. And like I said, my caveats are with fun, excitement, and adventure, and love, and humor, and bliss. And then once that's we put that out there, that's it. We can create that, and then we can just enjoy and play and have fun. And oh my God, what an easier existence it is.
Yeah, and I want to touch on one other allowing, as we've got a few minutes left. We had talked about prior and your little thing that happened last night, but I have a sign on my bulletin board that says, "It's not what they do, it's what I allow."
Absolutely, absolutely. And what we were talking about was, there was a comment on something I had posted last night, and there was somebody who had very different beliefs than I did, and than I do, and so they tried to take the stance of vilifying what I said, and blah blah blah, and there were others who are in the same boat as me with beliefs, and they sort of started taking up, like I guess the intention was having my back, and it wasn't really. The thing was that no, it wasn't. It was just, I have no need to push my beliefs on somebody else, because I trust that my journey is the highest and best for me, and it might not be the highest and best for somebody else. So all I can say is I honor you, and I love you and accept you for your journey as part of the divine as well, and let that go. And when you allow that to happen, then guess what? The resistance goes away, because what are they going to do? Right? They can't do anything because you're not giving them anything that, there's no resistance to it. And there's this acceptance and allowing of, what? You are allowed to have your journey as I'm allowed to have mine. And if we all live that way, what a better world it would be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, momentary.
I can tell.
The no sleep last night is kicking in. But I think that that's important, again, in that simple statement. It's not what they do, it's what I allow, because it has to bring it back to me. Right. I'm really, every time, trying to bring it back to me. Like, my husband did something the other night, and I'm like, I'm upset. I'm like, okay, well, what am I playing in this? Why am I upset? It's an opportunity for me to dig a little deeper. And I just, so many times, and it took me a while, a light bulb moment. You create your reality, which is a whole other show that we could do, but I'm always bringing it back. What's my role in it? Because I have the main role. It is me.
That's right. That's right. And oh yeah, that goes back to all this discussion about resistance and non-resistance and interactions with others, and you're right. If I am fully happy with where I am and who I am and what I say and the truth that I stand in, then I have no concern with how anybody else reacts to it.
Right.
Because I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to defend. I mean, I am who I am. And when we start to live in our truth and allow ourselves to be there, and we allow others to be that way too, I mean, the thing is, then the mirror turns back on them, because you then are not the one that, I always talk about it being like a paintball gun, right? You don't accept the paintball gun and just say, it's like a boomerang instead. So, that's a topic for another day. But anyway, good grief, we're already up on the half hour, so that was it's a great topic, and it's just something in your life. So my whole recommendation is, just notice this week, just notice over the next couple of weeks, what it is you're not allowing yourself. Like when you feel like you're in lack or that you're not getting something, look at what the parameters are you're putting around it, and look at what you might not be allowing, and then just change your intention. Just say it out loud. I allow myself all the awesome, good abundance in the universe. Say that. I deserve it. That's a simple affirmation that really helps a lot.
Yeah, I think that's great. Just this week, try to observe. And again, you are a spiritual being, work in progress, as I like to say, and you'll get there and you'll figure it out. And, also be open to possibilities. If the thing I talked about, the past life, made you go, not so sure about that, maybe be open that there's an energetic answer to it as well. All right,
Absolutely.
everyone. We will see you here very soon. I'm Julie Coraccio, and
Angela Coulter, have a great one, everyone.
all right, everyone, make it a great day. We'll see you later. Bye now.
Bye.